When you've been creating games since the late 80s, you're more than likely to gain a few fans, and those fans are bound to create some fan works. This is even more so the case in Japan, what with its doujin culture. With all of that in mind, let's talk about the masterpiece that is Alice Senki 2. Developed by the doujin circle Yume no Tsutsuki, Alice Senki and its sequel Alice Senki 2 are both a love letter to Alicesoft, featuring characters exclusively from Alicesoft games, including but not limited to the Rant series, Mama Toto, Mama Nyonya, the Dai series, and the Beat series. Alice Senki 2 is a refined version of the original game, and even includes extra characters. Before I go any further, I want to explain what a doujin, or doujinshi, is first. Without getting too deep into the etymology of the word, or the culture surrounding it, doujin are essentially amateur fan works, although some doujinshi are original works, and even sometimes created by industry professionals. Just think of it as like an indie work. If you haven't already heard of them, Alicesoft is one of the most famous eroge developers, dating all the way back to 1989. They've made many games, mostly eroge, but some of their games are suitable for all ages. They're probably most well known for their Rant series, and I think this is really well reflected by the fact that Rant himself is the first selectable character, and also for the fact that most of the selectable characters are from the same series. All the characters in the game have a lot of personality. You can just hear the arrogance in Rant's voice. And the Honey King is absolutely comical. Yume no Tsutsuki did an amazing job at translating the Alicesoft cast of characters to a fighting game. The way the characters attack is really authentic and believable. For instance, Rance can send out Syl to use magic attacks against the other player, or how Maria fights in a mecha named the Tulip. Even the way the characters heal feels authentic. You heard me right, it's not normally you get healing in a fighting game, let alone for every character. Some characters have better healing than others. Mickey, for instance, slowly searches for something in her pocket and then pulls out a Harami lemon. This animation has a long startup and then heals quite a lot very quickly. Meanwhile, Maria's healing starts instantly but restores less health overall. You can even cancel the healing ability by pressing the button a second time, but the timing is rather precise that you have to basically press the button right after for it to cancel. So it doesn't really feel like it could be used to fake out your opponent. The game uses a 4-button system, you know, the ABC or light, medium and heavy attack, the 4th button being the special button. To make explanations easier, I'm going to use the standard numpad notation. If you aren't familiar with fighting games, then the best way to conceptualize this is to look at your numpad. 5 is when you aren't pressing anything, and 2 is crouching. So 2, 3, 6 would be pressing down, diagonal right, and then right. Pressing A or B will make your character perform a regular move, but pressing the C button will make your character perform a super move, using up your bar. Pressing B and C at the same time, after hitting your opponent, will cause you to perform a break, which lets you continue your combo and cancel your current input. If you hit your opponent at the same time that they hit you, the attack will be countered. You can even destroy projectiles doing this. Walking backwards causes you to block. There's no block button, kinda how I prefer it to be honest. Some characters can create a barrier by inputting 2-1-4 special. This barrier will block all damage and even prevent chip damage. You can also perform mode activation using the special button. With some characters it's a quarter circle and then the special button. But Rance, for instance, it's 2-2 special. The effect is different depending on the character. It could be extra damage, defense, or in Rance's case again, it can be something like keeping Syl out to follow him. What I really like about the super moves is that none of them are cutscenes like in other fighting games. So you can always counteract them, even when they are partly through, and they can even partially miss when they hit, so it can help things to be a little more tense. There also doesn't seem to be any invincibility frames during or after performing a super move, so if you both perform one, like one after another, Then whoever hitboxes hit first will basically win, or both players will be knocked back, unlike in say JoJo Heritage of the Future, where if you perform a super move after someone else, you'll essentially counter them. Each character has their own story mode where they fight against the other playable characters, even sometimes interacting. And when you eventually beat their story mode, you get an ending scene along with some CG. The story and CG were both created by DHA. You may have heard of him before. He really loves Minad, and he used to have a fan club for her on his website before it was taken down. The voice acting for the characters is very amateur, but it's still pretty good for what it is, and I think all the character voices fit pretty well. Everyone who voiced the characters were also friends of Gab, and most of them aren't really involved with Dojin. Gab themselves said that some of them don't even know what Dragon Quest is. There are even some secret characters you can unlock. Please skip to the timestamp to avoid spoilers, if that sort of thing concerns you. First of all, we have Demon Rance. He's unlocked through beating the story mode as Rance, and then enabling an option in the settings that gets unlocked too. He is very similar to the regular version of Rance, except his heal is changed. He gains a teleport attack, and instead of being accompanied by Syl, Satella takes her place along with Caesar. His 214C is replaced with a powered up Rance attack, and his regular Rance attack is seriously broken too. Second, we have Little Princess. She is an upgraded version of Mickey and plays very similarly, but her damage is increased, she has a changed sprite, and her ultimate move is powered up, and she even takes on the true Little Princess form during the attack. Thirdly, we have a Tada, which is just an upgraded version of the Honey King. If you aren't aware, Tada is basically the head of Alicesoft, and this character is essentially a joke. Although despite this, they are still overpowered like the other unlockable characters. The same that applies to the others also applies to Tada. One notable thing is that if you stand still, a T will be shown on his chest. Finally, we have Naru Tsugais, and unlike the other characters, she isn't totally overpowered. She's a very technical character though. The way you play her is by creating water orbs and then hitting them with different A or B attacks in order to launch them at the opponent. There's even a way to make it rain. I have no idea what it does though, but it stacks and you can make the screen look really fogged up. One little quirk about her, it probably affects other characters too, is that if you input 2147 and hit A, B or C before leaving the ground, you can essentially do one of her air moves on the ground. It's also possible to do this with the 236 air move too. Just input 236, 9, A, B or C. The timing is a little precise there. The controls can be rebound in the settings, except for the directional input, which by default is the arrow keys or the left analog stick, which may be a problem for some people that are playing on a regular pad. The Logitech gamepad F310 allows you to set the D-pad as the analog, which helps to solve the problem. For fight sticks, it should be fine as long as you can set the stick to work as an analog, which you can do on most fight sticks. Also, another oversight is that the default button for pausing the game is the escape key, which when pressed, closes the game. This can be thankfully fixed though, by rebinding it in the settings. The default movement keys for the keyboard are the arrow keys, which I found slightly harder to input certain moves because I'm used to inputting it on WASD, so that's just something to be aware of. The game even provides a manual for you, which lists all the moves characters can use and has other information in it too. It won't have information for all its secret characters until you unlock Alice's mansion and find the secret code to unlock the secret password folder. The soundtrack for the game is astounding. The stage tracks are a remix of the characters' themes from their respective series. My favourite theme in the game has to be Maria Custard's. The symbols are used perfectly to emulate the sound of the mecha letting out steam. Even the original tracks they made for the game are perfect. Just give them a listen. The people who worked on the music are Toka, Wandog Nyankat, and Rice. Nyandog Nyankat worked on one of the intro videos. He sang and most likely produced the instrumental for it too. Toka, from what I have managed to gather from their homepage, seems to work a lot making MIDI music, so I'm assuming they worked on the stage music. I really wish I could tell you what contribution Rice had made, but unfortunately I wasn't able to find any info about them online, and there didn't seem to even be a link to their homepage or blog on the website. The one thing that may be a bug is that when a stage starts, the BGM will play, and when the game transitions from the versus screen, or the little dialogue before the fight, and into the actual fight, the music will stop and then start again. In the original Alice Senki, this wasn't the case, and the theme would just play as normal. Unfortunately, because the game is quite obscure, I haven't managed to play it with anyone else online. To enable netplay, you have to install a fan patch. It requires port forwarding and using your IP to connect to other people, so it may be best to only play against people you trust if that sort of thing concerns you. It does however feature local multiplayer. The only issue you might have is if you both try to play on the same keyboard. It's impossible to do that because the arrow keys would be the movement for both players. Alice Senki 2 is a wonderful game and really worth trying out. You can find it on site through my affiliate link in the description. There's an option to download a demo so you can try the game out for yourself before buying. You can also find the original Alice Senki on the site too, but I've had issues running this on my PC, so I suggest sticking with the sequel. Also, fuck Aria, which is seriously annoying to fight against.